Welcome back, my duelist friends, to part 3 of the How to Play Yu-Gi-Oh! Videos. And we're going to put some of the stuff from part 1 and 2 together. So what I'm going to ask is, at the beginning of a game, what you now do, of course you do your normal introductions, you greet your opponent. What you're going to end up doing is you will shuffle your deck. And again, minimum 40 to 60 cards. Your choice, what number it falls between. And you're going to offer your opponent a cut once you felt that you shuffled that enough. And of course, your opponent gets to cut it. And of course, I believe, as the rules go now, you can cut it one more time after that. After that, the start of the game, you're going to take the top 5 cards of your deck. That's going to become your hand. You place the deck into the deck zone. And then, of course, you get to take a look at your hand and see what you're going to do. As far as setting traps, maybe setting a quick play spell, and summoning a monster. Now, when you summon, I did mention the two stats being for two different positions. The way that we can summon is we can either set a monster in face-down defense, at which point we put it sideways, or we can summon in face-up attack position, and then we play it vertically, like so. And then, of course, if it gets attacked, it's just flipped up so that we can perform what's called damage calculation. And this is how we will take turns exchanging blows with the opponent. For the most part, summoning our monsters and then attacking and modifying with spell traps throughout the course of the game. Now, how do cards win against each other? I got some scenarios set up for you. So the first one's pretty rare, but let's say both cards have the same attack position or same attack value, and they're in attack position. If I attack with my blue eyes against yours, they both go away because they both had 3,000 attack points. So that's one. Another would be my monster beats yours. So instead of it being, blue eyes on blue eyes, it's my blue eyes versus your battle ox. Now, since they're both in attack position, whoever's highest is going to deal the difference in damage to the opponent's life points. And this is why you needed that pad and pen or the dueling calculator. Again, I like Neuron from Konami themselves. You find it either on Apple Play or Android. It's fine. It's free. But the calculation here would be 3,000 minus 17 because I've got to be able to destroy the card. So the overage damage would be 1,300. That gets deducted from our opponent's life points, and their monster would end up going to their discard pile as it was defeated. Now, in the opposite scenario, let's say I attacked into the blue eyes. Not only do I lose my monster, I take the damage now because that's my fault. Shouldn't have done it. Another thing that happens is sometimes you've got an attack position monster and you're going to attack something that your opponent has set face down. Again, you won't know what stats that card has until you've declared that attack. And we find out again, same card. So the opposing monster's defense is now going to be better than our attack. We will take the 250 points damage, and they will keep their monster. We will keep our monster. Their monster was only defending itself and therefore didn't have the destructive capability that they would normally do in attack position. So again, this ends up in sort of a push. I take a little bit of damage. If my attack were equal to the defense, same thing. The monster was able to successfully defend itself, and again, no monsters leave the field. So you attack into same or higher, monsters still stay. If it's higher, you take damage. Now, if my attack is higher, like this card, and this has 1,900 attack value versus that 1,550, I do destroy it. Now, normally, this makes it so that the opponent does not lose any hit points. However, there are some effects in the game where if a card does attack a defense position monster, you can inflict piercing damage. Piercing just means that we calculate damage like we would have had it been in attack mode, but using the defense value. So again, in this case, the 1,550 versus the 19 is a 350 point difference. So the opponent would take 350. Again, if we had attacked that same horseman with the blue eyes at 3,000, the opponent would take 0 damage because Mystic Horseman was in defense. So that's usually what's going to happen. It's just a whole bunch of rinse, lather, and repeat. Again, if you guys are playing a match instead of a single game, you are playing the best 2 out of 3, at which point you actually have that other stack of 15 cards called your side deck. In between games, you are allowed to trade out any card or cards from your main deck as long as you trade in that many other cards from the side deck. And when following the ban list and the advanced list rules, of course, you cannot have more copies than you are legally allowed to have in your deck at the time. Example would be Monster Reborn is limited to 1. If it's already in your main deck, you cannot add any copies to the side deck because the deck is altogether counted against with that list. So there is that. But you will take turns going through it. The setup of the turn is actually pretty easy. Again, let's just reshuffle this a little bit. We'll pretend to go through the same thing without the battle stuff this time. So we offer the opponent to cut. They cut. You decide whether or not to cut. You add your 5 cards. If you go first, you do not draw for the turn. But we will take it as though we went second this time. And I'm going to keep the deck in sight. So just real quick, there's our hand. It doesn't matter what the cards are. So the turn would normally go, well, you do the draw phase, at which point, again, if you're not the first turn player of the game, you get to draw a card. At which point, it goes to the standby phase. There are some effects that will resolve during this phase. Usually they are some form of like an upkeep cost, something that you have to pay to keep something in play. And so that's usually what standby is all about. During the main phases is when you get to play the cards from your hand. So you get 2 of those. You get the main phase 1, and then the battle phase, which is where we get to declare all those attacks I just showed you. And then if you have more cards to set, you can go to the main phase 2, and then you end your turn during the end phase. And again, there are some effects that activate during the end phase because there are some card effects that are only supposed to be for 1 turn. And this is where stats will usually go back. So if this was your hand, the first thing that we could do to prepare for our opponent, we could activate the Fire Formation Tenki. We're allowed to add 1 Beast Warrior from our deck to our hands. So we're going to go ahead and grab Battle Ox. And again, every time you go through your deck, you need to shuffle the deck. And it's always a good sportsmanship bit. Offer your opponent a cut every time. They may not want to cut. And again, with your friends, they generally will trust you. I mean, we're not here to be cheaters. We're here to learn how to play a game. So now that we've got that, we can go ahead. We could summon our monster for the turn. That's our 1 normal summon. So we're going to play him in attack position. If our opponent had a monster, we could just as easily activate Tribute to the Doomed, take 1 card from our hand, send that card to the discard right there in front of the deck, and then target their monster to destroy it, sending it straight to the graveyard, which will mean that our next attack gets to attack direct. So then again, we would attack for 18 because Tenki powers up our Beast Warriors by 100. We would go to the second main phase. I'm probably not going to fuse this game, so I'm going to set the Book of Moon and the Magic Jammer. So when my opponent goes to activate a spell, I can flip this, drop a card, negate that out. And if they summon a monster that's bigger than mine, I can put their monster in face-down defense position and maybe be able to destroy it, especially if I can fuse next turn. So you go to the second main phase, you'll toss 2 in the back row, and then you'll end your turn. And again, this is something that will happen just back and forth. The turn structure is pretty easy. And there's really only one other thing that we have left to talk about, my friends, and that's chains. So when you're doing chains, it is an effect and then something else resolving afterwards. So the best one we could talk about here would just be saying your opponent activates Fire Formation Tenki. That is going to be Chain Link 1 because we are going to respond with Magic Jammer. We'll pay our cost. And then what happens is the first effect in is going to be the last effect out. So we're going to resolve from the newest card back, and Magic Jammer is going to negate this. So now our opponent's never going to be able to add that monster from their deck to their hand, and the card will go from the field to the discard pile. And again, we've already discarded our card to make sure that that happened. There are ways to make a much longer chain, so let's play around a little bit. Let's say, got that. Opponent's going to summon Spear Dragon. That's going to be link 1. We're going to want to put it in defense because we know we can beat it. And then they'll respond with the Magic Jammer again. So again, they threw their card away. Now I'm responding to the summon because once a monster's been summoned, it can't change its positions that turn. It can do it the next turn. But again, I'm trying to put this in face down defense so it doesn't beat the crud out of my Horseman. And again, I know my Horseman will win the matchup of 13 versus nothing. And my opponent knows that once he's thrown a counter trap, that only counters can respond back. So he's attempting to negate my ability to put that card face down. And again, this would be a 3-link. And again, as long as there are cards that can go up, and as long as you do not try to use a lower spell speed, and again, most effects are going to be spell speed 1. Like almost every spell outside of quick play is spell speed 1. All traps are going to be spell speed 2. Along with the quick plays and the quick effects or the old school multi-triggers. And counter traps alone are spell speed 3. And again, once you see a counter trap, you need to see another counter trap. So again, the only move that you could do to Magic Jammer would be 7 Tools of the Bandit, because this one says when a trap is activated, pay 1,000 and negate that. So again, we can take apart his Magic Jammer for some life points, at which point our book did not get negated. And in fact, his dragon will go face down, and that could be an example of a 4-link chain. So I do hope this has been helpful. When I come across some more advanced techniques or some things I feel like would need broken down more, I will continue to make some videos and add them to this. This is like a 3-part playlist right now, at least at the time that I filmed this. And I really do hope that for anybody out there trying to get into this, or just you wanting a refresher course or something, I really hope that this was a good resource for you guys. You guys have a great day, and I hope to see you on one of my regular videos very soon. Have a great day.